Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... There, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. So Netflix is basically Santa this year. 2 NFL games on Christmas Day, streaming live. At 1 p.m. Eastern, it's Cowboys, Commanders. Then at 4:30, you've got Lions, Vikings. Midwest football, playoff stakes, and probably some snow. Watching holiday football is a tradition the whole family can enjoy. Open some gifts, grab some food, settle in, and watch NFL Live on Netflix this Christmas Day.
Hi, I'm Daniel Lickis, and welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He is a fusion of science, spirituality, philosophy, therapy, and love. No other than Mr. Flavio Souza-Campos. Welcome, Mr. Flavio on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, Daniel. Hello, all of the world listening to us right now. It's an honor to be here. I love talking to Daniel because he's the #1 podcast host. I'm really excited to be here. I started my life in science, teaching engineering. Then I went into philosophy and therapy. I spent 29 years as a hypnotherapist. I did over 44,000 sessions during 29 years. And during that time, I went into medical school, and now I work in medicine. So I'm excited to, I have written 9 books. I'm on my 10th right now and writing the 10th. And one of the topics that I love the most is the topic of relationships. I'm a part-time pastor as a hobby. I love marrying people. And one of the things that I love to do is to help the people who are looking for a relationship to find their person. And if they want me to, I'll marry them. So that's what I like to do as a hobby.
Interesting. I like that. Mr. Flavio, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you. So today, let's talk about how to find your person, the inner work of lasting love. Oh, I love our topic for today, Mr. Flavio. Your approach centers of inner work. Why is the journey to finding a lasting partner fundamentally an internal one rather than external search?
Oh, absolutely. So, by external, I mean, there are a number of dating coaches that will tell you what kind of websites to go on, how to talk to men, how to talk to women, how to dress, where to go, that kind of thing. So I call all of that the outer game. But that's not what I do. I don't know much about that. The people who come to me to find their person are people who have already tried that and it didn't work, or they simply don't want to try that because they don't believe in any of that stuff. They think they should meet somebody organically. So they come to me for like an inner change. And what do I mean by that? I'll tell you how I discovered all of this. The year was 1997. This woman by the name of Marta came to see me, and she told me, look, in 14 years since I have been divorced, no man will even ask me out for a cup of coffee. And I thought that was interesting. So we started working as usual. We go into hypnosis. I don't have to know what's going on with her. I simply hypnotize her, as I have done 44,000 times, and I ask her subconscious mind what's going on. She takes me back to an experience in her childhood. She had some friction with a particular person in her life that left a mark in her, like a little bit of a pain there in her subconscious mind. And that modulated or that altered the way she perceived herself as a woman and the way she perceived the men as suitors. So as a result, even though on the outside she was looking for companionship, she was looking for a man, on the inside she was kind of repelling them, right? On the inside, I mean subconsciously. With the consequence that, as she said, nobody even invited her out for coffee, like she would say, when we cleared that pain at the level of the subconscious, she has what we call a catharsis. And the very same day that she left the office, she met a man at the gas station where she was getting up her car. So I hear a little bit of is that normal there, the feedback?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Flavio.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Okay, so then I figured, man, we're on to something, I took my notes, I started studying what it is that we were doing with her that was working so well. And I started talking about that, and more people started coming to me to find their person. I refined the methodology and eventually published a book called How to Find Your Person. And I have married a bunch of people that follow the program, let's say, and found the person whom they consider to be the love of their lives and are now happily married. So, what is it that we do internally? Everybody tells you to define the person you want, and we don't. We find that that doesn't work really well. We tell people to start defining the sort of relationship that you want, not the person, but the relationship. And it's different. It appears to be the same thing, but it isn't. Think about the sort of relationship you want. Do you want a relationship that is soothing and comfortable, or do you want a relationship that is adventurous and exciting? You see, those are fundamentally different experiences. And the way we help people do this is by focusing on who you are and therefore what you think would complement you. So we begin to define through a series of exercises. If you're doing it by yourself, you're going to do it by journaling. We have to write quite a bit. You have to allow this stuff to come out of you by writing. If you're in the office, all we have to do is hypnotize you and allow your unconscious to express itself. But the bottom line is the first step is to define carefully what sort of relationship you want. The second step, and only then, we're going to define what sort of person we want. Now, these two steps, when I explain it to people, they think it's the same thing, and it isn't the same thing. The relationship we mean more like the experience, and the person is more like the person you want to be interacting with. And normally, when we begin to define the person, people idealize that, right? I want a person who's perfect for me.
yes,
We all want the perfect person, obviously. So once we have a picture in our minds of that perfect person for us, we have to be in a deep state of hypnosis to ask ourselves the following question. The question is, would that person that I see in my mind be interested in me? Now, remember, we're talking about chronically single people, and invariably, their own response is no. That person would not be interested in me. That woman wouldn't want me. That man wouldn't want me. Right? We we unconsciously recognize that the people we idealize or the people we think would be perfect for us somehow would not be interested in us. And that's a difficult part of the process because now we have to ask ourselves why. So a man might say, I'm not in shape. A woman might say, I don't take care of myself. A man might say, I don't make enough money. A woman might say, I only speak one language. I don't know. I'm making all of this up. But we all have a sense of whatever our deficiencies are. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. None of these things really matter, but it matters to us. So if I think I'm not in good enough shape, that's enough for me to create an idea in my mind. I'm not in good enough shape. And as a result, I'm going to broadcast a signal that is incompatible with attracting the sort of person that I want into my life. So then the third step, I define the person, I define the relationship, I define the person. I asked myself if I think that person would be interested in me. I elicited out of my own unconscious the reasons. Wow, little. I wonder if I could turn this down a little because it's okay. I elicited out of my own unconscious the reasons why the person may not be interested in me. And then we have to go out and fix it. So, for instance, if the reason why I don't think that woman would be interested in me is because I'm overweight, I have to take steps, to adjust my weight. Now, all of this seems really obvious when we discuss it or when you read the book. But unless we actually make the changes at the level of the unconscious, the process doesn't happen. This is why this is not a coaching process. It's not a matter of me telling you, do this, and do this. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen. Because if we just follow the steps or if we just read the book, then the changes only go into the conscious or the rational portion of the mind. The important thing about this methodology is that it guides us into a process of inner healing. So there are several catharses, there are several healing moments that happen throughout this process. And essentially, what the entire method is based upon is this. We end up attracting somebody that mirrors not who we think we are, but who we feel we are. And those are not the same thing. Those are two different things. So I might tell you, Daniel, that I'm a successful man. But if inside, unconsciously, deep within me, I feel that I'm a loser, even though I tell you that I'm awesome, if inside I feel that I'm a loser, the signal that I broadcast socially and relationally is the signal of, and I'm using this word, I don't use the word toward anybody else. I'm using this to exemplify the problem. We broadcast the signal that we're some sort of loser, quote unquote, right? And then we don't attract the person that we think we deserve. So the entire methodology is simply a framework designed to get us into the pain point at the level of the unconscious and make that switch. We have to make that switch. Once we make the switch, we call that healing. Once we heal that inner image of ourselves or the self-image, then we become naturally magnetic toward the person that we actually really want. So this process has been validated, and like I said, the book has been written. People have tried this methodology. If you do it correctly, you're going to get wonderful results. Now, what do I mean by doing it correctly? Just to get off this monologue, doing it correctly means we have to enter the level of the mind that we call the subconscious, because that is where the objections live. So that's essentially how anyone who has been single can find their person.
Interesting, Mr. Flavio. Truly empowering. We often hear you have to love yourself first. What does actually mean in a practical terms? Is it about feeling confident 24/7 or is it a different kind of foundation?
I approach all of this stuff, Daniel, from a mystical perspective. And I think that the word or the term or the phrase, love yourself, has a very specific meaning in mystical circles. So, for instance, in the Bible, you talk about Adam loving Eve, let's say, and it also says Adam knew Eve. So, to know and to love are the same thing. So, ancient Greek philosophers talked about man know thyself. So, to know and to love are the same thing in these old scriptures. And apparently, what that phrase meant to ancient mystics, know yourself or love yourself, what those phrases meant is to become one with yourself. Now, this is really, it gets deep into the heart of mysticism. The idea behind this mystical thought is that each one of us is not one thing, but two things. So there's a biological being, which includes the human personality, the mind and the personality, plus the physical body. That's one thing. But then we have something else that is also what we are. And we call that the soul, for lack of a better word, right? So there's the divine part, the soul, and then there's the human part. The human part includes the mind and the personality and all of that. Well, in this ancient terminology, what I use in my practice, this mystical philosophy, to love yourself is the same thing as to know yourself, which means to become one with yourself. And what that means is that the divine part of you becomes one with the human part of you, just like Adam knew Eve in the Bible, right? To know is to become one with. And that's essentially what is symbolized in marriage. In marriage, the husband knows the wife and they become one. Now, physically, that becoming one is symbolized by the act of sex, but in essence, the idea of becoming one, like the Bible talks about a husband and a wife becoming one flesh, right? One, two become one. So, mystically speaking, to love yourself, Daniel, to us means to become one with yourself, to unite the divine with the human into one cohesive whole.
Interesting and empowering answer, Mr. Flavio. How do our past wounds and attachment style from childhood or previous relationships unconsciously dictate who we're attracted to? And what is the first step to breaking and navigate the patterns?
Yeah, that is such an awesome question. One thing I love about you, Daniel, is that you ask the most awesome questions. That is a fantastic question. And that is the root of my clinical practice, right? I mean, people come over because of those past wounds. So usually, when there's a past wound, we end up unconsciously doing one of two things. Either we begin to unconsciously seek a way to repeat the experience, or we avoid the experience. In both cases, it's kind of artificial, right? So I'll give you an example. If I had a partner who was an alcoholic, this is an example that comes straight out of one of Freud's paper. A woman had a husband who was an alcoholic. He was very abusive. He was an alcoholic. So she left him and got another husband who also happened to be an alcoholic, left him again, found a third husband. And eventually, by the time Freud is writing this paper, she's on her fourth husband. And when she meets this man, she smells alcohol in his breath and she says, I know it's trouble, but it feels so familiar. It feels so good. So she's attracted to this man who's an alcoholic, already having had three previous husbands who were alcoholics and abusive toward her. Now, I'm not suggesting that every alcoholic is abusive. What I'm suggesting is that when we face trauma, in this case, her father had been an alcoholic and had traumatized her. So when we're traumatized, one of the possibilities is this thing that Sigmund Freud, called the compulsion to repeat. In other words, this woman was traumatized in childhood by an alcoholic father. She had this compulsion to repeat and keep on marrying alcoholic husbands who would be abusive toward her. So compulsion to repeat is one possibility when we have wounds from the past. A great example nowadays, we hear about this all the time, is a person who have a relationship with a narcissistic person who's quite abusive. Narcissists in some cases can be quite psychopathic. They're very sick in some cases, and a person will have another relationship with another narc, and then another and another. We call them N1, N2, N3 in clinical practice, because people keep on going from narcissist to narcissist, almost like in an addictive way, right? Similar to that woman in Freud's example, seeking alcoholic men who are abusive toward her. Okay, so that's one possibility. The other possibility is we shut down completely, such as the story of Martha that I told you about, who came to the office and told me, no man asks me out. So we completely shut down that function. Those are the people who have sexual dysfunctions. They cannot have sex, men or women. Those are the people who have bodily dysfunctions. They shut down a particular function when that function becomes the source of pain or trauma to them. So again, we either repeat the past trauma or we shut down the functions that have to do with that trauma. In both cases, the person suffers, in both cases. And our job as therapists is to help the person out of that pain into normal function and joy, right? I mean, the idea of marriage, sex, and love is to bring you joy. So that's what we aim to do with our processes that we do in clinical practice.
Mr. Flavio, you said our partner is often a mirror. What does it mean when we are consistently triggered or annoyed by a specific trait in our partner? What is that reflecting back to us about yourselves?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I have an online course that I call The Mirror of the Self, and it's a relationship course, right? And I call it The Mirror of the Self because your partner, whoever you're intimate with in any shape or form, is actually a mirror to you, of you, a mirror, Whether the person knows it or not, they're functioning as a mirror of who you are precisely because of that. The things that I love about that person are things that I recognize or not, consciously or unconsciously, I also have those qualities. So pay attention if you're listening to us right now and you're intimate with anybody. Now, when I say intimate here, I am not suggesting only sexually. That's one way that you can be intimate, but it could be a relative of yours with whom you don't share sexual activity, right? But if you're intimate with somebody, emotionally intimate, pay attention. You admire certain characteristics of that person, and in some way or another, you have those characteristics. You have them because you admire, you recognize it. You might think that you don't, but you do. You may have to develop yourself, but it's in there somewhere, right? Equally, and more interestingly, the things that bother you about a certain person, for sure, you either have these characteristics, but what I find amazing is when you are on the verge of healing a particular personal problem, you will definitely meet people who mirror whom you used to be. And it's so interesting what begins to happen because you can watch that person behaving in the way that you used to behave, and you can see that person with compassion now because you realize that you were just like that not too long ago. So you see the person with compassion, you no longer see them critically or with irritability, you see them with compassion because you remember, oh my gosh, that was me not too long ago. So you ask yourself, how can I help the person? And you can because you remember being like that and you know that you got out of that mentality. So absolutely, in an intimate relationship, you're going to find people whom you admire, obviously, and those are qualities that you do have. And you're going to find people that trigger you, that irritate you quite a bit in every relationship, even in great marriages. But pay attention to those moments of irritability. You're going to see that in some way, we are doing the same thing that they're doing. This is very difficult to see without hypnosis. Because, for instance, let's say that I told you, I'm intimate with this person and I'm irritated with her. I'm making this up, right? Because she lies, let's say. And then you ask me, hey, Flavio, in what way are you also lying? And I say, oh, no, I don't lie. I'm irritated with her because she lies. Well, if we go back to this theory that we're discussing here, I'm only irritated with her because in some way I'm also lying. Now, you might say, but isn't lying wrong and shouldn't you be irritated? Well, if you no longer lie for real and you see somebody lying, you feel compassion toward them. You realize that they're lying. You want nothing to do with them, but you feel compassion because you want to help the person out of that need to lie. When we feel irritated, for sure, in some way, we're lying as well. So then, if I talk to this person, in what way are you lying? Just talking? They're going to be denying. There's just no way to see it. But if you go into deep hypnosis, which means we access the unconscious portion of the mind, and I ask you exactly the same question, in what way are you lying? They might say something like this. These are just examples. They might say some things like this. Well, I tell her that it doesn't bother me. Well, that's a lie because it does bother you. Well, I tell her that I love her. Well, do you always love her, or there are moments when you don't? Yeah, there are moments when I don't. So that's a little lie. And on and on and on. In other words, we're irritated with the person for lying. I'm making up this example to make it simple because in some way we're lying as well. In some way, right? Except that we don't think that we're lying. We think that we're just being agreeable. We think that we're just being nice. We think that we're just being positive. But in some way, we're lying as well. Therefore, when we see it in them, we feel irritated. And it's very difficult to get to that simply by talking. You have to go into the unconscious and see in what way you're not being sincere so that you can get out of that situation.
Mr. Flavio, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in 5th season. Abstract poetry in 2nd season. I'm a book 101 review in 5th season too. A comedy 101 in 2nd season. I'm a food 101 in 5th season as well. Geography 101 in 4th season. I'm a baby podcast law 101 and mental health 101. Love letters in 3rd season, and movie 101 review, music 101 4th season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its 2nd season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Flavio, if you could give only one piece of inner work for someone to start today to change their entire trajectory in love, what would it be?
Don't give up. Don't give up, for sure. If you have a desire to love, to find somebody, to be in a relationship, don't give up. Don't ever give up. Don't let anybody convince you that it cannot happen for you, because it can. Don't give up. Change yourself. Let's figure out a way. Call me if you need to. But the point is, don't give up on your dreams, because that dream that you have is a flame in your heart that needs to be nourished. So absolutely don't give up. Daniel,
Don't
thank
give
you so
up.
much.
No
Yeah.
worries. Don't give up, people. Try until you succeed. Mr. Flavio Souza-Campos, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast, your advocacy, your books, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, my podcast is called Dr. Flavio Shares. Altogether, Dr. Flavio Shares. And you can find everything about me there, Dr. Flavio Shares, and we do all kinds of interviews. Not quite as good as Daniel. I want to grow up and be like you, Daniel. You're awesome. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Flavio. And please support Mr. Flavio Souza-Campos, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. Flavio, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yes, more to come, people. See you soon.